Welcome to this week's Inquisition with Paint Party Scott, aka Ryan. We're at slightly later time of 8 o'clock. My wee granddaughter's birthday. Shout out to you, Mirren. Happy 7 years old. And Casey was watching the football as well. So, and Ryan was very accommodating. That's because he's a lovely doctor, even though he's a shrink. He's a very lovely man, and he kindly accepted for us to push it back 30 minutes. Up, painting, how you doing, Graham? Hope you're well, mate. Are you happy with the result? Did you watch the game, or were you too busy burying bodies in the Yorkshire Dales? As we know you like to do that on a Wednesday. But yeah, we're just waiting for Ryan now and Casey, who's probably still celebrating the win over Dr. Congo. But listen, hopefully England get beaten the next round, because England will never hear the end of it. And there he is, the man of the minute. Casey is with us now. I'm going to send you an invite now. From up until 64 minutes in. Well, it looks as though they were waiting for you to come in, Graham, so they could start scoring. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Look who it is. It's Bear Grylls himself. The Bear Grylls of Penge.
Bear, just Bear. Hairy.
Man, you look as though you've been on a fucking safari for like 4 weeks, hunting fucking rhinos or something.
Dropped me on piss several times, yeah.
Yeah, that's because you live in Peterborough, mate.
No, there is a water issue up here apparently, and there's been lots of scandals. So,
when I was younger, that's all you heard in the news was England was stealing our water because they had water issues.
does not surprise me.
And my mum would always say, because they never built the reservoirs deep enough.
Because they did build reservoirs, and then they ended up just drowning all the locals out, and it's all shit.
And our water's better than your water, so why not? Why drink your city water when you can just steal it from Wales or Scotland?
Everyone's water's better than ours. Oh,
yeah, man, your water is rank.
Yeah. So tell you what, while we wait for Ryan, I might do a little product review. How do you think about that?
Okay. Are we going to wait until the end of the show for you to take 3 teaspoons of, or will we do it until will we just count them up until England get knocked out?
Oh, yeah, shit, I've got to go get... But that's actually quite handy, because I haven't been able to get the teaspoons. I mean, I'm quite happy to save it up and I just do the whole packet when we get knocked out.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
What if he's win, though? That would be disappointing.
Mate, the last 2 seasons, that wouldn't be the weirdest thing. Yeah. But, yeah.
Product review?
Southern water is awful. Thames water especially. Never drink Thames water, because it is just raw sewage. Product review. So the other day, when it was Prime Day, I put a little post up the other day as well. I went out and I got myself, well, I didn't go out because it was Prime Day, but I bought myself this thing.
You never went out, you did it on your fucking, in your house.
That's what I said, I didn't go out and just clicked a couple of buttons. But essentially it's an airbrush micro compressor thing. Oh, and I've just dropped the airbrush. But it's, I have not used a proper airbrush step. And no, I know you haven't, Dunk. So I got a bit of advice from a friend of the show, Heavy Metal Steve, name dropping him there. And here's Ryan, or a black screen.
Not good.
Oh, no, we can hear you.
That's spinning. There you go. Look at that
so, yeah.
handsome man.
Can you hear that?
No.
Depends what it is,
This little.
Is it? Oh.
That's what it's like, a little heads-up display thing, so you can set the PSI. You turn it down or up. So as lowest, it'll spit it out, and then it just stores it up. My one thing is the hose that you get for the airbrush is really long, but the plug is really short.
So what you're saying is you don't like long things but short plugs?
I would prefer a longer lead power lead, if that makes sense. I'm pretty sure you can go out and buy a bigger power lead.
I don't know if Ryan has froze or he's just doing a very good impersonation of a man who looks half asleep.
He looks like he's about to sneeze, which is how I've felt all day. I'll tell you what, hay fever has kicked the shit out of me today, man.
Because he's that shitey southern water.
East Anglia water. I mean, obviously, all water is southern to you. I appreciate that point. But here, what was that? It's the dog. It's called an extension. Yeah, I should just get an extension lead. That's a fair point. I give it. I sprayed my grey water over it, and it seemed to go all right.
The true king of the north, Dan, is saying local honey for hay fever.
Yes, apparently local honey is the best thing because it is honey made out of local pollen. I do have some, actually. Oscar got some because he's a fiend for honey.
Ryan, did you update your app earlier on today?
I did, of course I did. Don't be silly. I wouldn't dare do that to you. No, for some reason it just cut me off there completely, but the feed was still going. I could still hear you talking. So then I came out, came back in, and then it looped twice, so then I had two of you speaking at like about 10 seconds out of sync. It's the wonders of technology.
Instagram being Instagram.
And well done, Ryan, for coming out and then going back in.
It's going to happen again.
Yeah, he's going to come out. Oh, he's froze again.
I just thought we need a pants for once. I mean, yeah, when I'm working from home, that's all right. But then it's when you forget yourself when you go to the shops.
Casey, I think you're a bit misdressed.
Yeah, I haven't had time to change today. Yeah, I was planning on taking a quick break and sorting that out in a little while. So do not fear, it will happen because this t-shirt stinks of sweat.
Is that because you're too busy running about when Harry Kane scored the second goal for you tonight?
No, it's because I've been working next to a window all day with this. The back of my house is a sun trap, so the sun has just been beaming in, and it's been cooking me.
Mate, it is absolutely pissing here right now in Ireland.
Of course it is. It's the Irish summer. All it does is rain.
Oh, it's fucking horrible, man. Absolutely horrible.
In any other country, they'd call that tropical summer. In Ireland, it's just bang average.
I really don't know what's going on with Ryan's stream because it keeps cutting out.
He's moved the camera.
Hopefully I stay in for more than 30 seconds. We'll see. We should maybe get someone to time it at this rate. That's twice it's kicked me out randomly.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should just ask your missus how long you were in for before you came back out. Hey! And now there's a gale force wind blustering through the house. Brilliant. So, Ryan, thank you for joining us tonight. You will be our last guest of this period where we're going to be speaking about 11th and things that you're looking to, etc., etc. So I put in the Inquisition story, does anybody have any questions? And we had two responses. So we had Brown Bear Gaming, who's next week's guest, asked, what is the model that you've enjoyed painting the most?
Oh, in total, probably, the model I've enjoyed painting the most is probably the Lion, which is a bit of a cliched answer as Dark Angel player, but it is, when it came out a couple of years ago, it was just the perfect model for the perfect time. He's the most night-looking 40k motherfucker that you wanted, and, it had all those Dark Angel-y bits that I enjoy dialed up to the max. He had big giant wings, he had big robes, he had little midgets in robes carrying random stuff. You name it, he had it that was Dark Angel-y themed, so I absolutely loved that. And, I tried to push myself. I took that as an opportunity to do stuff I hadn't done before with modelling as well. I carved up that man's neck to install magnets in all 4 head options. I'd never done that before. I'd never done any proper magneting work, and I wanted to do the best I could. I'd done some shoddy magneting work in the past, like with magnets on one side and bits of aluminium cans on the other. That's a cheap hobby tip. If you can't be bothered having 2 magnets on either side, just start slashing up cans. But I did it properly with magnets to keep it all in place. and then made a big effort on actually painting it as good as I possibly could. I could probably do a little better now. I'd always like to have another crack at these, these big centerpiece models again and again. But that was great fun. I really love painting that.
Do you not think he should have been slightly taller compared to some of the Demon Primarchs? He's quite small, and the impression that you get that a Primarch's taller than a Space Marine who's 8 foot on a bad day.
Yeah,
You'd have thought the model would have been as close to maybe a Chaos Primarch.
I can understand why they've made the Chaos Primarchs so much bigger. It is to get that sort of sense of they are swollen with, but they're fully monsters. That's why they love the monster keyword, isn't it? They are beyond humanity. And meanwhile, the 2 loyalist Primarchs we have, they kind of look like big versions of what they are. Rabuti Gilliman is the big Space Marine. He is the cleanest, biggest Space Marine around with a conventional looking Space Marine suit of armor. And the Lion is the most knightly looking of the Space Marines. His suit of armor looks like it's been ripped almost straight out of history with a power pack slapped on the back. So you can get that sort of design aesthetic, but also sizing. Now that I play more games, one of my children is screaming. It's a problem with having She was asleep.
Well, I put mine to bed before I scream.
So, they are. I now realize playing more, trying to get more games in. Basing size for these big models is so critical in modern 40k, as I understand it. Like literally moving these models around, these big centerpiece models around, is really challenging. So not so much for Lion and Rabuti Gilliman. I think they're on 80s. I think 80 or 90 millimeter bases. But having tried to play Fulgrim over several matches with these 150 millimeter base, which is bigger than all the other Chaos Primarchs, along with his spindliness, just getting him to be places and be where he needs to be in a reasonably terrain-dense environment is quite hard, which is why I'm glad in 11th, and we'll talk about that as we go along in new rules. There are new rules. I mean, for example, for Fulgrim, they had to add in a detachment towards the end of 10th there just to give him a free stratagem to help him move.
Yeah.
Basically give him the fly rules that we're all now getting as part of 11th. So I was stuck. If I want to use Fulgrim, which you could argue why you using a big 350 point boondongle anyway that can't kill anything. Well, you do it because he's a big cackling villain, and if you're going to play Emperor's Children, you get the big cackling villain in the center, to laugh like Skeletor, at the Marines he's killing, sort of thing. I'll get you next time, Rabuti Gilliman.
I think we've crossed 3 cartoon franchises there, because that was definitely Inspector Gadget meets He-Man meets fucking Warhammer 40k.
Well, he'd be more Mortarian. I'll get you next time, Rabuti Gilliman. I mean, the 40k children's morning, what is it, Saturday morning children's cartoon would be an interesting sight to see.
Yeah, that's an AI fever dream waiting to happen. So I bet someone who's listening to this and go, fucking do it, fucking.
Kato Sicarius flying in like a Power Ranger.
Would that mean that Inspector Gadget would be like Admech? Then he would be the first Admech.
Yeah. Or I would that would be great if 40k ties in with any other properties, because it steals from everything.
Yeah.
The somewhere buried on Mars is RoboCop.
go Adaptus Mechanicus grabber and just shit popping out of their heads.
Absolutely, a whole unit of claws of grabbers.
So
I mean, that's the natural evolution. We've got the Admech on stilts, so we need the Admech with helicopter hats. That's the next.
That should have been the Flyers. That really should have been the Flyers. They just fly around like this. You don't need the weird batwing things now. Just propeller hat. EW, sign us up. We make better rules, better models than you.
Absolutely. They were like, we're going to do Da Vinci. It's all going to be about this aesthetic of, all these really technological ideas. Like, and then, but we're also going to do stilts, which is fucking stupid. So,
I would just like to say, because I'm going to forget, I'm going to forget about it. See, when you mentioned magnets, I fucking hate trying to do the magnet thing. Because I had these best intentions when I was doing my Defiler, my first one.
yeah.
I'm going to magnetize it so I can paint all the weapons, so I can play it like, so it's not just like, well, that's not really this weapon that I'm using. But
Yeah.
I want you to go full hog. And it ends up where I get more super glue attached to myself than the actual bit, the magnet. And somehow the magnets somehow switch round so that when I try and then put them together, they're
Everything's repelling.
anti-polarized. It's like, I hate magnets.
Yeah. I remember trying to do it for a Land Raider I had like 4 years ago. You do these big projects when you're only back in the hobby like a year. You're like, suddenly, yeah, of course I can expertly cut up this and just throw magnets on it and it'll all work together. It absolutely didn't work, and that's the why I just have a regular Land Raider before I cut the thing to pieces.
I did a standard repulsor tank a couple months back, and everyone was like, well, why didn't you just go 3D print the turret and then magnetize all the weapons? I'm like,
all the options.
First of all, it's 3D printing? Nah. I can just afford my power as it is. I'm not getting a 3D printer as well. And secondly, I'm not fucking about with magnets. I'm not a scientist. Do I look like fucking what's Brainiac? Like John Tickle walking around, things that make you go, with magnets. Although saying that, I do need to figure out the new land speeder because I don't like the flying bit that it's on, and I need to do a new base.
Yeah.
A lot of people do magnetize that.
I did, speaking of bases and magnets, the other time I did magnets was I hated. Remember the Inceptors? They sort of go in and out of fashion.
You did a video on that, yeah.
Yeah, the guys with the bolters or with the plasma guns. I'm going to do a few more of those for Dark Angels, and we can mention that in my plans for 11th. But their bases, I did sort of little bits of rubble and with graffiti on it, so it looked like ruined city, and then had magnets on the bottom of their feet, so that then they could and in the ruins, so you could just clip them on. Makes them easier to store, easier to move, and I hated those old style, really thin stick flying bases. Yeah. I think everyone hated them. That's why they're not in kits anymore. That's why the new Vanguard veterans are just on bases. I think they're giving up on that, which is fair enough. They were a nightmare.
Yeah, definitely. What was the other question that we got done?
The other question was, why do you do 40k when AOS is much better? And that's from Reed.
That's from Reed, isn't it? And here's Brown Bear, just joining in late. Sorry, bro, you've just missed your question.
You'll never know what I thought. So why is AOS better? AOS is one of those funny things where I loved the old world back in the day, and I still love it, and I still need to buy a new PC to play all of Total War. That's what I want to do. I have like all three of these new Total War games that I can't play because I don't have the hardware, but I bought them anyway. That just shows you how much I'm into it. That's a terrible way to financially manage yourself. So it's sitting on Steam. As soon as I have the hardware, I'm playing the hell out of that. But then I heard AOS was a thing, and the models that I saw weren't that exciting. There are really lovely models. Stormcast Eternals never really did it for me.
Is that why you went Dark Angels? Because it's got that kind of old world feeling, but with a more modern age?
That might have been it. It was the funny thing about choosing Dark Angels back in the day was sort of twofold. Every kid likes knights, and I don't. And I think the two first. Do you remember the Codex Astartes articles that came out in White Dwarf? We're now talking about early 2000s. These were This was before the Horus Heresy was even published, and this was the first time they sat down. There was bits of it in Codex Space Marines in 3rd and 4th edition, but then in that article they got the actual writers from GW, and they did like a 4-page article on, say, the Dark Angels, or they did a 4-page article on the first two I ever read were Death Guard and Dark Angels. So that's why I still have I always have a mini love affair with Death Guard, because the story was just brilliant. And it was the Dark Angels I read first. I think that's why it stuck with me. And then when I came back to 40k, my buddy was playing Ultramarines. And I was just like, I don't want to be bloody Ultramarines. Nobody wants to be Ultramarines. And I was just like, I want to do that again. I want to do Knights again. Knights are cool. So I'm gonna do Space Knights. And that's where, that's right, Sam, that as well. That as well.
Yeah,
I do remember those articles. They were the old Index of Starters one. And for years, I've been trying to find the ones they did on the World Eaters, because I swear it opened with like the sickest line of mankind's greatest tragedy was to not meet each other with an open hand but a closed fist. And it was like, that was like the most epic bit of writing. It was like Gilgamesh, old school, classic level of smart to it. And it was like, that is Batman as an opening line. And then I can't find that article anywhere. But yeah, that was, you are right. They did put a lot of thought. I think it was around 5th edition, end of 4th, start of 5th. They really sort of nailed their shit down, because that Dark Angels article also featured a lot of stuff about like the Wolf and the Lion, the race to terror, why they were both late, what they did after that. It really flushed it all out.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was those sort of early articles, and that's why I came back around to it. And for me, I think you could have got me into AS a couple of years ago when they announced the Lumineth Realm Lords, because I was a kind of a high elf guy back in the day. I had a small high elf army that I played a bit of Warhammer Old World. Well, it wasn't Old World then, it was just Warhammer. Warhammer, I think it was 6th edition. I played a bit of that, but I was only 12 at the time, and you only played with mates, and they were all really badly painted and shit. So played a bit of that, enjoyed a bit of that, but then sold all those when I came back to the hobby, not realising that obviously they were all out of production at that time and probably would have been worth a lot more to the right person. So sold them for too cheap. But then nothing about AOS grabbed me, and then they released Lumineth Realm Lords, and there was something with the elfiness that didn't mesh with me. The giant cows, the spearmen cool, the archers cool. Got Teclis. Teclis is his model. I love Teclis's books. I've got the William King High Elf trilogy. I've got all of Gotrek and Felix, and my favourite one is Giant Slayer, where Teclis turns up. Because he's an awesome rude bastard of an elf. And his model was just a bit meh as well. He's just standing there, but there's a fantastic piece of artwork for him where he looks so dynamic, and he's got that sort of monster that's behind him. I don't even know the lore behind it. It's just a beautiful piece of art, and someone's done a 3D sculpt of that model and then painted that up. That should have been, if they just copied that piece of artwork and turned it into a model, I would have bought that in a heartbeat. But the one they actually released was just meh, and that was my whole feeling on it. Whatever excitement I get from 40k and Little Space Marines, I just don't get it from AOS. Maybe I'm just waiting on the right model. Maybe, I don't know. Some of them are beautiful. They're really pretty models. They don't make me go, I'm going out and buying that. It's just the way I am.
That's fair enough. I think that's a really good enough, very reasonable answer. The Teclis Mini, is that the one where he's sitting on a rock or something?
Oh no, he's sort of like doing a Jesus pose in front of a monster. He's like,
yeah.
Which is fine, but it's. There was rumours of a second sort of high elf style faction that was different from the Lumineth Realm Wars, but led by Tyrion, which is his twin brother. So I'll wait and see, because I still have the old metal Tyrion in my collection that I need to finish painting. But I metal models I've found are really hard to paint. So paint just doesn't stick quite the same way to them in terms of primer and stuff. So I've not quite mastered that yet.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, even, I suppose back in the day when we were painting them, we didn't notice it as much. But now everything is plastic and resin. You really notice the slightest dink on a metal mini. That's like 3 layers of paint gone from it.
That's exactly it. That's what I've been finding with the primer as well. I'm trying to paint it carefully and work it all up and things, and then just holding it and touching it, the paint's coming away. I don't know if it's because I've not primed it correctly, or I should have, I've been watching a few videos from, there's someone on, I can't remember his name, someone on here who does these old minis up to like amazing standards, but he spends ages filing them, like cleaning the whole thing up, and which I didn't do because I didn't know I had to be filing. So maybe it's part of that, it's getting that adherence to the, the actual surface of the model, that if you don't prep the model properly or smooth out these areas, the primer's not going to grip it properly. So meanwhile, the moment I touch it, the oils on my fingers just take the paint off. So that £100 model that I could sell on eBay is sitting in a box up here. So never mind.
Yeah. So we might as well just bring it to the main topic of our conversation, which is why didn't you win a game in 10th? What happened in 10th?
What happened in 10th?
How many games? I'm only joking with that question. But how many games of 10th did you actually play in total?
Over a 3-year period, I must have played. I played more in the last year, so I must have played about 4 games a year with my buddy Thomas. So every sort of, and. So I've probably played about 3 or 4 games per year with Thomas. I've not beat him since the end of 9th, or maybe it was early 10th I beat him, I'm not sure. So I think it was at late 9th that I last beat him. So I don't play very frequently, so learning stuff is a bit challenging. And yeah, I'm just not very good at the game, I suppose. Thomas is better. He practices more and he's just a better mind for it, I think. Some people that I'm too casual a player to plan ahead properly or to do objectives properly. I can do it. I have won games theoretically before. It's just I'm not as good as he is in terms of, and he's my regular opponent. So but that's not my only excuse of being rubbish, because I've played other people as well and been equally crap. But then I paint, halfway through 10th edition, I paint my Emperor's Children up. So I then I play 1 practice game with them and then take them to a tournament. So I lose the practice game and then I lose the 4 straight games in the tournament as well. So, but I would say, I can blame that slightly on the way the Emperor's Children is at the moment. I've got excuses ready. I played a slightly harder version of Emperor's Children by taking Fulgrim. If I wanted to play meta, competitive Emperor's Children, I didn't take the list for it. What I needed instead of 350 points of Fulgrim was another unit of Noise Marines and like 2 more squads of Infractors with Lord Exultants. And just that idea actually makes me itch, because like in my head, an Emperor's Children warband doesn't have 3 Lord Exultants working like a Power Rangers team high-fiving each other. You get one pretentious dude at the top of the pyramid with his big spear telling everyone else what to do in the Emperor's Children. You don't have 3 of them all leading little chunks. Yeah. But that doesn't matter if you're not playing the game properly. So I played okay in the tournament. It's not like the only one game was a complete wipeout. My first game was I scored like 20 points. That was almost a wipeout. My second game I scored 5. My third game I finally started to warm up and scored about 40, and then my last game I scored about 40 to 50, I think it was. It was a much closer game. So it took me 4 games to get to shit as opposed to just diabolical.
Yeah, but do you not find that though when you're playing, when you're taking the models that you just want to have a bit of fun with, that's more fun than taking a meta list?
Absolutely, and I still had a good time in that tournament. The 4 losses didn't matter because the 4 guys I played were nice guys. I played, it was the first guy, even though Thousand Sons guy, was a much more experienced competitive player. I've never played Thousand Sons before, and he almost had me tabled by turn 2. We still had Magnus and Fulgrim duel each other, and then Magnus just edged the duel, and then Fulgrim's had poisoned Magnus, and then Magnus died to mortal wounds the next turn, which was hilarious. So there's little stories like that made it fun. Okay, I lost the game, but there's a little fun story in that. And my final game, again, I'd never played against Imperial Guard at all. Like I've not gone against someone with Imperial Guard. That was a really close game back and forth. He hadn't taken his meta list for Imperial Guard as he could have either, and it actually turned into a nice sort of swinging back and forth. And it was a few different decisions. I could have finally won a game, sort of thing, and that was the way. And I've played a couple more Emperor's Children games with Thomas since, and my last one was our closest. It was like one turn's difference. If a few rolls had gone the other way, I would have finally won a game in 10. But it wasn't to be, and that's the way it went. So,
but do you find that when you're playing? Sorry, just before you jump in, Casey, do you not find though that the way I played against Guard, you run out of units quite quickly, and it's really because they have more units and can just whittle your guys down. Do you find that with Guard?
That's what happened with Guard. I ploughed my way through. Also, I forgot my rules. Right, that was about. I forgot a chunk of rules. Right, I let myself get bogged down in the midfield. My like two of my key close combat units got bogged down by two big groups of Guard. But even then, if I'd remembered the rules that applied to those units, they would have chewed through them in a turn. I let them go in for 2 turns because I'd forgotten rules like Lucius and his whole, the Lord Exaltant and his whole unit could re-roll everything against this unit, forgot all of that.
Yeah.
Lucius could have re-rolled everything against character units, forgot all of that. So, he should, these units should have been eaten up when a turn, and that's what he threw them in for. But, by the time you get to game 4, you're a bit brain-fried. It was day 2. I was meant to play 5 games because I was aiming for the wooden spoon at that point. I would have lost all 5 games, and the guy that got the wooden spoon in that tournament got like a lovely prop plasma gun, and I was like, that should have been mine. But my poor lady wife was sick as well, and because the tournament ran over, it was quite funny in the morning. We all got there, and it was meant to start at in for 9. Game kicks off at 9:30. We didn't kick off till about 11 because no one from whoever owned the building, it's this town hall in the middle of the edge of Glasgow, the employees hadn't turned up to open the place. So, we were delayed an hour and a half, so that knocked everything back. Every game was back an hour and a half. My wife was sick as well and looking after the girls, which was fine up to a point. And then it was just like, no, I can't stay and say I'm going to stay now. I said I'll be back for 6 when the tournament finishes. I'll now have to stay till 8, and then the tournament doesn't finish till 9, and it just wasn't a practical. So I just finished at game 4, and that was the way of it. I didn't ask for a refund or anything. Loads of people did. I felt sorry for. I know the guy that runs it. He's a really cool guy. I ran the lore quiz for the tournament as well the night before, so it was a really cool team, and they gave me a load of stuff on account for that. But I was disappointed I didn't get my wooden spoon. I could have got my wooden spoon, and it was funny because there was a table right beside me of an Emperor's Children player. He'd lost a couple of games as well, but he had the meta list. He had 3 Demon Princes, 3 units of Noise Marines, 2 big units of Infractors, and all and he was playing the detachment that was the good, in quotation, the good detachment. So I turned up not in the right mindset for a competitive game, but that wasn't a bad thing. That wasn't a bad thing. Maybe, I wasn't disappointed. I still had a good time. I would go again.
Yeah. I think, do you find, right, and this is something I discovered recently, that the games that are more fun, like you can always learn something from getting tabled either way, but the games that are more fun are the ones where even if you don't quite know what you're doing and your opponent does, you push them. You make them grind the win out rather than actually just being a rollover for them.
Absolutely. I think close games are better than ones you don't get me wrong, everyone loves an easy win if you steamroller another person or you steamroller back. There's enjoyment to that, of course there is. But it was funny because my last 2 games there with my buddy Thomas, the game before last, I was completely demoralised because I think I'd got like 20 points and like a lot of things had swung the wrong way really early on, and I was like, I think I was down at 500 points by turn 2. I'd positioned a few things wrongly. I thought, line of sights I hadn't considered were actually fairly good lines of sight, and stuff died. And I was just like, I was really sort of demoralised at the end of that game, and I was like, oh, Emperor's Children, man, I don't know if I can be bothered rolling this out. Maybe I start painting Dark Angels again and trying to get good with something, because this is demoralising. And then he said, oh, we're going to do our last game of 10th. And I was like, fine, just roll out the Emperor's Children one time. I lost that, but it was a much closer game. And I've walked away with that feeling, right, well, that went better, And I think he changed his list, so maybe he toned down his list a bit in some aspects, but it was still a good solid list. It was a Dark Angels list, he turned up with my own army to smack me about, which one could say is quite rude, but it was still good fun.
Where do I donate Casey's shaving kit fund? I will set up a Patreon or Coffee or OnlyFans, and you can just whatever. It is going to come off because I do look like a tramp, but I also don't care.
I don't know. Casey and I look like a before and after shot beside each other at this point.
Oh, well, the other week when we had Warhammer Pod on, it had Dunk who was clean shaved everywhere, me who wasn't, and Dan sitting there like half bald, half beard. It was just like the various stages of man. We could have been sponsored by Gillette for that episode. It would have been quite fitting. Right, so obviously the main reason that we got you on was to chat 11th. Obviously going over what you've said about your 10th games and everything, how do you feel that the Dark Angels and your Emperor's Children will line up for the next edition?
I think there's some good stuff. I do think there's some donated to Ryan. Everyone knows I can grow nothing at all. This is like 3 days worth and just nothing there. So yeah, 11th edition. There's a lot of stuff I'm excited about in 11th edition for both armies, I would say. And this is what I've come back to paint Dark Angels again recently, just to get ready for it and try some new things and just give myself some more options and experiment a little. Dark Angels were in a difficult place. Again, they had like 5 detachments in 10th edition and 1 extra good one. The good one, as it were. And the good one, again, very similar to what happened in 9th edition in terms of the rules, was the Wrath of the Rock, which was, again, its primary thing was infantry models have -1 to wound on higher strength weapons, which were used to similar to the 8th and 9th of Evolution of the Deathwing, rule, which everyone hated. It was really powerful in 8th moving into 9th. It was too powerful. We were punished for that. We became the competitive meta Space Marine army for a little bit of time. But then in 10th edition, a variant of that just ended up the same. And I suppose what made Dark Angels difficult is they are 3 armies. You can play, if you want, all Terminators. You can play a conventional Space Marine army with a mix of things. Or you can play Ravenwing, and the difficulty was it was hard to have 3 themed armies or even bits of 3 themed armies without rules that really match. You would have to go, right, I'm going to take a bit of Ravenwing and I'm going to, for my fast stuff, I'm going to take Deathwing, I'm going to take a bit of regular Space Marines, but the rules only apply to the Deathwing. So a chunk of my army now doesn't have a core army rule, or if the core army rule's there, it's not as good. The whole new detachment system actually really might suit Dark Angels in particular, because theoretically I can take some of the bits that I like from different rules and put it all together. Now, it doesn't help with Wrath of the Rock. Wrath of the Rock, I think, is still a 3DP on the systems, because it is solid and it is good. And that's what I played against with Tom, and it is oppressive, because if you take an elite army like Emperor's Children, where most of my units had more strength than his units had, I should have been wounding on 3s. Across the board, suddenly I'm wounding on 4s. Everything's going to 50%. It made it harder. It made it more of a slog. Things that I should have cut through faster, that my models are designed to do, became slower. Now, as a player on the other side, that's exciting. I'm like, good, I can bog people down. That's interesting. But what I'm really interested in is some of the other detachments for Dark Angels that will hopefully bring out those minis I've not touched in ages. Like, I bought a load of plasma-related units, and then they haven't seen any play in 10th. So Hellblasters, Inceptors, Black Knights, these are, Hellblasters are not specifically Dark Angels, Black Knights are, and, these thematic type units for Dark Angel. Dark Angels used to have Devastator plasma units, and also, the Landspeeder Vengeance. We've got our own big special cathedral-shaped Landspeeder with 2 big plasma cannons on the back of it, which I haven't finished building. So we've got all these themed units, and there was nothing particularly special you could do with them in all of 9th and 10th. We're getting a new detachment in 11th that is basically it's not Weapons of the Dark Age. Dark Age something. Dark Age something for plasma. So it is essentially going to add strength to all my plasma weapons. So I can go lean into the lore, which is Dark Angels carry loads of plasma, and I can add on minis that actually fit that theme. That really appeals to me as a lore interested player. That's interesting. There's also Dark Flight, which benefits the Raven Wing, and I can combine some of those. So instead of, okay, I'm taking some Raven Wing because I like having Raven Wing, I'm taking some Death Wing, but I have to forget their rules. They don't have extra rules. Now I can customize it a little bit more. I've not quite decided how I'm going to build a 2,000 points in Dark Angels yet. I've been looking at my lists, and I've actually been trying to paint. It's been more about a pile of shame clearance project. It's like all these Space Marines that I bought and sat in boxes. So I'm currently painting Infernus Marines. They're nothing to do with any of the rules for 11th edition, but morally I felt it's objectionable that I've had 10 Infernus Marines sitting for 3 years in a box that I bought the starter box for and have not touched, and it feels obscene now not to sit down and paint them. So we're working on that. And yeah, it's just getting that sort of those other thematic and lore units I'm interested in throwing in and seeing what that does for Dark Angels. Core rules for Dark Angels could work either way. We're an army that doesn't hit as hard in close combat as, say, Blood Angels, or doesn't hit as hard as World Eaters and so on and so forth, but we have some solid close combat units that can usually take a hit as well. The Deathwing Knights are, for a chunk of time there, Dark Angels lists that you saw in competitive tournaments for 3 units of Deathwing Knights. Mm-hmm. That's what people were running, and I've just bought another box, and I'm painting them right now. But that's more for my sort of completionist addict soul than it is meta, because I'm doing them with the swords, which are apparently not as good. But that's just because I want 5 with maces and I want 5 with swords, and then I'll feel better about it in my brain. So yeah, that's for Dark Angels. That element is interesting. New rules that we can layer on top of our core units. Maybe bring the Raven Wing back in. I'm interested in that. The real interesting core rules. Fights first affects us. The change to fight first will affect us because a couple of our units relied on it. The Lion, in particular, the Lion was a big threat that could deep strike and ingress from almost anywhere, and then cut through most things and had fight first. So you couldn't charge him. If you charged him, you were throwing away a unit. So you had to bog him down, or hope he was out of position, or make sure he had to run towards a big firing line. He had lone operatives, so he could get within 12 inches usually. He was fairly fast. Combined with deep strike, he could go back into deep strike. He was fairly useful. Again, a big base, hard, referring back to earlier, big base that's hard to move around. But fights first changes how he's going to work moving forward. I've read the fights first rules once again for 11th edition about 4 times. I still don't quite get it. I've watched 2 videos. I still don't quite get it. Every edition fights first has changed because it's a hard thing to get right for everyone to be happy with. So we'll see what happens with those sorts of big models for Dark Angels.
Well, with your experience then over all the codexes and editions, how would you fix fights first? Is it easy fixed? What would be your plan?
It's not easily fixed, I think, because I get the purpose of charging is it's got to be a reward risk system, isn't it? Because the move phase is the key phase of 40k as a game. Right, the move phase is where it all matters. Positioning your units, getting lines of sight, and moving your units into threatening positions. That's where it all matters. Shooting, of course, all the fighting and all the shooting is all the cool bits and the exciting bits where you roll dice. But if you don't move your units properly, they're not shooting. If you don't move your units properly, they're not fighting. So it's the fights first sort of hinders that and creates another factor in that. And if fights first always prioritizes a certain way, it hinders the interactivity of models. It became like the lion. I can't my opponent can't interact with the lion because I can't charge him. because I'll lose that unit probably. Maybe the toughest, hardest unit I've got might beat him, might not. He's not invincible, or the Gilliman isn't invincible. That's they can be killed with the right unit, the right combination of rules. They're not impossible. Fulgrim definitely is not impossible with fights first. I mean, my goodness, he died every game I've had him. Just absolute little bitch. Anyway, it's fights first is hard in that sense. I liked the way it worked last edition because it felt like there was always units that were a threat. You had to consider that and always consider a threat. And it was a bit simpler. It just was there. Now we're getting back into a system of trying to organise whose turn it is in order. But it requires more thinking, but it's better than 9th edition's version, where they had to update it halfway through the edition, and it had like its whole own separate 3-page rulebook just to explain how fights first worked. So it was simpler and easier in 10th. It wasn't perfect. I've not spent enough time reading 11th to know if this is the solution that it is. It feels a bit fairer because charging should reward the charger.
Yeah.
They are the person taking the risk. They are the person moving their units forward to engage. No unit should be automatically invulnerable to that charge, because what just happens then is you don't interact with that unit. No one charges the line. No one charges Fulgrim. No one, and that doesn't feel right either. So. Yeah. It becomes about how you organise your charge. It's even that is tactical, and that's in the movement then into how many charges you do, because you need to consider how many CP my opponent has. Are they going to interrupt? If I charge into their unit, two of their close combat expert units at the same time, are they going to fight first and ruin my day and all that sort of thing? This is probably why I'm bad at the game. There's so many layers that I lose track very quickly.
Would you have, so kind of to make it a kind of risk and reward thing, would you then have like fights first as a kind of like stratagem, like tank shock?
Or as something you activate, an ability that you activate?
Yeah. So like if you were to charge in, obviously you would get to fight first unless, or as you charge in, you deal mortal wounds to the unit you're attacking, and then if they have fights first, so you're kind of slowly chipping them down in the event that you maybe want to have, because you could then soften a target up. Say you were fighting the Lion or Mortarion, and you want to charge them, you could shoot them and bring them down to a few wounds, and then charge in your boys, and then depending on that kind of tank shock, but in an infantry style, you're dealing mortal wounds. Yeah, the toughness sort of thing.
Yeah, it might be one of those things. Maybe it's best keeping it random. Like I wonder if fights first is an ability that certain units have, but it only activates on a 4-up, or if you're a more powerful unit like a Primarch, it's a 3-up. It's because and you automatically get it when you charge. You're the aggressor. You charge in, etc. But then if someone else charges you, it's not a guarantee that. It used to be initiative order. If you go back many editions ago, which I never played like 40k 3rd and 4th edition back when I was first in the hobby, but I was playing a little bit of Warhammer 6th edition, and it had initiative order as well. But it didn't really matter so much to me because I was playing elves, so I remember being higher in the initiative order. So I was always like, I'm fast elves, so I'm going first, and that's in the ongoing combat. So, but I don't know if we want to bring all that back, calculating initiatives against each other and all that sort of stuff.
I think you run the risk then of it being bogged down and having proper stat lists again.
Exactly.
So go back to square one. But we'll say from a fight first perspective, you are right. This last edition, 10th, any games I played, and just playing vanilla Marines, just trying to get my head around everything. Always the bog standard you must take: squad of Hellblasters and a Judicar in a squad of Bladeguard, because you've got to fight first. Yeah. You've then also got precision of Judicar, which means that, as you've rightly said, they're a fear unit because people don't want to charge that unit with something that's good, because you're just going to turn around and say, right, well, I fight first and I'm targeting your character. Thanks, good night. Exactly. At the same time, you would then be advancing that thing up the board, and that would be what your enemies target, because they're scared of it.
Absolutely. And Bladeguard are a toughness 4 unit with a 4-up invulnerable save That and 3 wounds. That doesn't last long against dedicated. Your 10-man unit Hellblasters. That doesn't last long. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one, which is why people then get obsessed about cover and board layout and all these other layers of rules in regards to that. And then that's changed in 11th now. That's a whole other environment.
I have yet to get a game in, but I did play. I know you said you were painting up some Infernus Marines a little while ago. I have used them in 10th. I think they might have a benefit in 11th, but I have yet to determine what. Because obviously, if all the terrain is your objectives and everything counts as being in cover, just auto hit them with a squad of flamers.
Yeah.
But again, that then makes them a fear unit, which means that will people engage them? Will people want to, target you first? So it just shifts that fear to something else.
Yeah.
But then also, I will say for Dark Angels, Marines in itself got a little bit of a nerf because as soon as the app updated, you could take, again, using that common thing, I could take a squad of Blade Guards, 6 Blade Guard, lead them with a Judicar, and then also slap an Apothecary in there. So anytime something dies, I'm instantly picking it back up. After a couple of days, they got rid of that for Vanilla Marines, but I think it's still in Dark Angels or in a circle.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out because it's one of those things where Blade Guard, I've never got them to hit as hard as they theoretically can hit. I've had them bounce off a lot of stuff. I think they're a good into Oath of Moment type unit, but I struggle to make them work without that. And it's just about getting them into the right. They're heavy infantry killers, but they're pretty slow on that process. I found maybe it's just because I keep getting outplayed, and they keep on going. Tom. When I play Tom, once again they're going into the wrong unit, so no wonder they don't do well, and I lose again. But yeah, no, that was the way I was running them in 10th. It was the Judicar, and sometimes they had Apothecary, sometimes they didn't. It was these combinations that became a little boring because they were always the same good combinations that you were almost forced into taking to make up for the deficits of the unit.
Yeah, it does feel a bit of a weakness. And I know there's new flavour combos now because of attaching a leader and a sub-leader to a unit. But we'll just have to see. That Fights First thing then, does that affect much of your Emperor's Children? Because I know they're quite fighty as an army as well, aren't they? They would sort of be deemed the high initiative army, like you said about elves.
Yes, it will because they're primarily a close combat army. They're a close range army. Noise Marines need reworked because I think Noise Marines surprisingly not too bad in combat. They can throw out a lot of attacks, but they've got that 18-inch range that's really tough to work with, and I'm still trying to work that out because they're a little faster than other heavy units, but they just don't even kill heavy units fast enough unless you use other stratagems. So then I found myself stuck with certain detachments that boost them up a little, so I've struggled with that. Then you've got your Flawless Blades and Infractors, which are really good. They can throw out big volumes of attacks and wound a lot of stuff, and they don't automatically have fights first. But there's like the detachment I preferred, which was Peerless Bladesmen, had a stratagem to give them fights first. So I liked that. I liked using that to make sure that if you charge with a big heavy infantry unit, you're trading my unit for your unit sort of thing. I think they also had Fight on Death in that as well. So even if I couldn't get fights first off, then you're going to lose your heavy close combat unit if I'm going to lose mine. Stuff that's going to help me for Emperor's Children. I've not read over all the detachments for Emperor's Children yet. So I'm not, I've spent, because I've been painting Dark Angels, I've mostly been reading it in sort of a Dark Angels bent. So I need to read over the Emperor's Children stuff. 4 rules that are exciting me for Emperor's Children are, fights first changes. Only Fulgrim has that inherently as a Primarch ability that you can activate. Lucius has it as well. Now, Lucius has always been a really great, annoying unit because he can kill most small infantry units and probably take out most heavy infantry units if he's in a good place as well. And he's quite surprisingly resilient. But now his fights first is going to change. So it's one of those scenarios. He's not going to last the fight as long as he would have previously, maybe. So this is why I need to understand fights first. I need to do more reading on it and get this solid in my brain so that he can make it out alive if I'm throwing him into bigger units and bigger challenges, and make sure I get the order correct. But I don't know yet with Emperor's Children. I might put them on the back burner for a while and paint up more of my Dark Angels, trying, a bit like yourself, Casey, trying to get a feel for an army that I'm more familiar with slightly less complicated, harder rules, and then come back round to Emperor's Children, because I'm interested to see, moving into 11th, what the rest of the Emperor's Children line comes out with. There's a strong feeling amongst the Emperor's Children players that we've got half an army. We're missing something. I don't want to just buy a Defiler to make up for the deficiencies of the army, because it would help. A big 250 point Defiler would help, because it's the only way I'm going to get las cannons. So I struggle taking out tanks in my Emperor's Children. My Flawless Blades can do it. Maybe the Infractors can do it. Fulgrim can do it. But getting the Flawless Blades there and getting Fulgrim there is quite challenging. So that goes up back and forth. So I'm interested to see maybe what we get that's maybe something more anti-tank themed moving into
would you not get a Land Raider to kind of shove them up the board quick style then?
Yeah, I mean, that's what people have suggested. We'll get a Chaos Land Raider. I am interested in it. I've got a Deathwing Land Raider. It'd be interesting to get another one out, paint it all pink. Another big project. It's something I'm thinking about. It is something I'm thinking about. I think it's because in the past, a Land Raider was the first tank I bought when I came back to this, rather than a Predator or anything else, or Repulsors or anything else going on for Space Marines. And I think it just died turn 2 one time. My buddy knew how to just target it properly, and it's never done well in any game I've taken it. So it puts me off, spending the month painting a pink one. And then, it will also be another big boondongle that I just ruin. But that's probably because my positioning needs to be better. And going back to my thoughts on movement, I just probably need to get better at the game.
Yeah. I think as well, like you're saying about the Defiler, like a Land Raider is another 250 point brick, essentially. And I found in certain games that I was playing in 10th that if your opponent was too meta on their movement, and the way that everything was just, I'm sticking out half an inch, I can see that unit, I get to target everything on my tank to that unit, which was utter bullshit. You would just blink and something would be obliterated.
That happened to me as well. I positioned my buddy tried to make nice themed thematic tables, and he does a good job of it. He's got fantastic array of terrain when I play him regularly, but he'd done this sort of container crates that you get, those sorts of container crates. He piled some up in a sort of almost pyramid-esque shape, and they all looked like collapsed, and it was cool. And I was like, oh, cool, right, I'll position stuff behind it. And it was like, yeah, I can see right through the triangle space in between. I was like, well, I didn't think that was the way we were playing it. I thought that was all obscuring, but okay. It is turn 1 and everyone's deployed, so I guess that noise marine unit's gone. So, I will never let that happen to me again. I will, before I even finish placing, I'll be like, what can see it, and how can, what's the rules of this piece of terrain? Learning.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to understand more about the terrain footprints now, and I think it is better that if a unit is behind it wanting to shoot something the other side of the footprint, it can't, because the footprint obscures.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, this is okay, yes, they can true line of sight right see through it, but in my mind that was how the competitive players played it. It was like there's an outline and footprint, which was hilarious in some of the games, because it was like my Terminators were looking at this big group of Rough Riders in that Imperial Guard game, and I was like, so I'm going to shoot them. It says, oh no, the footprint's here. No, and I was like, the footprints here. What are you talking about? I can see them. They're like standing in the open beside each other. I was like, no, well, here's the L shape. This means that this is completely obscure. And I was like, cool. Okay, well, we're going to advance through then, and we're going to shoot them. But it was that sort of way, and I think I'm still in that mindset, and just trying to understand those elements as well. And
yeah, I'm gonna sort out some first games for myself soon. But you are right. It is just every edition that feels like there's enough of a subtle change in certain things obviously, I think 10th from 9th to 10th was a big step, but
Yeah.
now it just feels like every edition after this, until they decide to refresh it completely again, it's just going to be tinker, 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 tinker.
Yeah.
And then people will get fed up, or they'll break it enough that they bring back initiative. So who knows?
Yeah, so they've decided it never works, so we're just going to add a slightly different version of it every game until people are sick of it. This one looks maybe a bit better in the sense of it's not a be-all and end-all. You can't interact with that fights first unit. You have to run. Even your best close combat unit can't go into this because they will lose half their unit right away. So that's a problem.
I will ask one more thing before Dunk jumps in there. Sorry, Dunk. You touched on this earlier about your approach to building your army for the tournament, in that you were looking at your list and you're like, well, I don't need 3 of these characters because lore-wise there would only be 1. And it's just something I think I do as well, where you just sort of look at building your list and you think, many people rock up to games with, again, using Marines as the example, 3 captains. One were like different flavors of captains, but they have 3 of them. In my brain, I'm like, well, come on, like in theory, there should only be 1 of them.
I think so too. It's that way of like it depends on how Space Marine companies fight in my head. The classic thing to have is a Space Marine company is 100 Marines. You've got your apothecary, you've got your captain, you've got your 2 lieutenants now. They included that from 8th edition. You've got each 10 squad sergeants and your variations of different Marines, and the idea being a company is a fighting force that can conquer a whole system. That's what it can do. It can take a planet. It can probably take a star system in the right circumstance. And it's a fully, fledged fighting force in and of itself. So it only has 1 captain because he's in charge. And then, it almost doesn't make sense in the lore of like these 3 company captains. Where's their own company? What are they doing? Why are they turning up here? Commanding. Okay, you never know in the lore. Anything can happen. But yeah, it rankles me as well in regards to that. And I know they did a little bit of limiting of that. I don't know if it was in 9th edition or if they're bringing that in 11th. If you take multiples of certain units, it will now cost more. So if you want to do your Blood Angel with a Smash captain, then a Death Company captain, then a regular captain for whatever advantage, hopefully that's taxed. I don't know if that is, in terms of all of those units, but certain units are going to be like my 3 Deathwing Knights. The first 5-man unit is like 250, the next unit is 270, and the final unit's like 390 or 290 or something. So I need to think that through if I'm going to play that meta style list. There's a tax on it now.
Yeah. Dunk, what's taxed in Death Guard that you've looked at?
Bloat drones are taxed. Defilers are also taxed. I think Plate Marines are taxed if you take more than 2 units. If you take 2 bricks of 10 and then add a 3rd one, I think they're taxed. I think once you add
interesting because a battle line usually gets protected from that kind of nonsense. That's.
I think if you're spamming 3 types of any unit, I think it's on the 3rd unit.
That's when the tax jumps in.
That's when the tax jumps in. So you can take like 2. Because I tried to mix up with taking 2 heavy bloat drones and 1 more bloat drone, and I think it was taxed. I think not the non-shooty bloat drones are 100 points, but once I added the 3rd one, they jumped up to 125 or something like that. Yeah. Which makes sense.
I went through my app and deleted all my 10th edition lists, so we're sort of clean.
Because that would definitely stop. That would stop like Emperor's Children players bringing, like you said, 3 Demon Princes.
3 Demon Princes, absolutely. It's going to get more expensive for the 3 Demon Prince plan or the 3 Noise Marine list plan. It's. But that's a deficit, I think, to the Emperor's Children army list, and it's the problem the World Eaters have as well. Death Guard don't suffer it quite as much because they've been around longer. You think about it, actually, the Death Guard revamp was 10 years ago. That's insane when you think about the time scale. 8th edition was 10 years ago. It's been 3 sets of 3 years now. So, that's a mad thing to think about, but that's when the Death Guard got revamped, and then they got another, bit more additional throughout 9th and 10th edition now. So they have a wider range of units. Thousand Sons as well are overdue for some add-on units as well. but World Eaters and Emperor's Children, I think, are really lacking in terms of their options. We end up taking. Should we take big blobs of, just regular Marines? Probably. That's what I should be buying. Maybe just more big blobs of regular Marines. But the lore is people play Death Guard because yes, they love Plague Marines, but Blight Lord Terminators and the what's your scythe boys?
Death Shroud.
Death Shroud. The lore behind them is awesome. Big blobs of that shit is epic. That's why people play, and also big hordes of zombies and poxwalkers. People love that. But yeah, there's the Celestials mentioned it. There's like 16. There's 100 codex entries for Space Marines and 16 total data sheets or 20 or something as data sheets, and 4 of those data sheets are demons from the Demons Codex. So. And if I wanted to play demons to back up the list or make up for the deficiencies in the list, I have to play a certain detachment, and that detachment's not great. The detachment was very much relying on the demons being close to other units. So, there were some good rules that they had, but then I had to take enough demons to power up my regular units, and then all the opponent has to do is shoot the squishier Slannesh demons, and suddenly I don't have an army rule anymore. So I didn't even get to that stage yet, but that was something I was thinking about. But didn't commit to those. So yeah, those armies in particular feel like they're missing some options in regards to that.
Yeah, I think Thousand Suns is similar for that, with like the demons and for the Zangor list.
Yes.
And everyone just did end up playing Warpfire Coven or the whatever they're called, the Phalanx one, where it is just loads of rubricate. It was just, that's all you ever saw out of Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like with the Death Guard, there's like we're missing like a kind of proper anti-tank.
A little bit. Yeah,
like, I think all the Chaos suffer for that, because you'd maybe then have to start employing fucking Knights and Warhounds and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, and then they don't fall under your army rule because they're not Death Guard.
Exactly.
So they then don't fall under the whole like the shroud that we get.
Do Death Guard not get Havocs with the assault weapons anymore?
We don't get Havocs.
Because years ago, this shows my age now. Like, I know Havocs were traditionally the heavy weapons, like the last rocket launchers were heavy bolters. But in older editions, Death Guard got Havocs, but the whole squad would just be like melted plasma guns. So you could still just walk forward. Like, although they weren't heavy weapons as such, you could just equip a squad of 5 melter gun Plague Marines and just off you go to murder tanks.
No, it's Blight Lords. That's our heavy infantry. Well, you've got the Death Shroud, which would probably be the shock troops coming in, deep strike, turn to, hoping that they're within 6 inches, so you can get. Well, in 10th edition, if they were afflicted, you could deep strike within 6 inches, and then you could then charge them. So you're looking to like flame them up, soften them up, and then if you had your Lord of Contagion, you could do Lancer, which I never really understood until the last day and found out I was doing it wrong. I could actually target the fucking main character in that unit. But yeah, like I think with all the Chaos guys, they're missing like that heavy tank. Whereas like I would say Space Marines have everything.
Oh yeah, we've got too many. And Celestial Lion paints in chat. He's been in there all night, good lad. He's easily saying that trimming the Rhino chassis down from specific armies has really hurt Chaos as a faction. And you can see that because most Chaos armies will have a Rhino in them to help a unit bounce around up the table.
Yep.
But then you won't see Predators. Yeah, you don't see Predators because that was always the solid option. You might see the odd Vindicator if you're lucky, but that's about it.
What the Defiler does give me hope for is the Defiler is a fantastic model, and I think yes, everyone bought it because its rules were amazing, but it's such an upgrade from the original Spider tank vibe going on. It's a Chaos unit, and they did it's got a head for each faction. It's got for each Chaos faction. I loved all that sort of stuff. What we need for that is either a Hellbrute or a proper Chaos Dreadnought that does the same.
Yeah.
You've got an Emperor. I don't know if they can manage that on one chassis. That's the difficulty, because the Hellbrute is so generic. So you need, a Sonic Dreadnought, as you used to have for Emperor's Children, looks massively different from a Nurgle Dreadnought, I would imagine, in regards to that, or similar. But I'd love that to come back, because then you could have a bit of long range firepower in that. Okay, you can have a Sonic one for Emperor's Children, but you could throw on las cannons for other variants or something, in regards to that. A Dreadnought.
We do need Chaos Dreadnoughts, because they're still going to have Chaos, and they're going to be even if they were modelled after the 30k ones.
Yeah.
You just messed about with tentacles and stuff. Yeah. That would be absolutely fucking savage to see.
That's what a way to print money, I think, for Chaos players. The Hellbrute model that's there is more than 10 years old. I've got one. It's fine. It's not great. It can only be built one way. It's got a short range melta weapon. It's not that interesting. It's going to go in my Night Lord's army that I'm working on when I eventually get back around to that. But it's not particularly thematic in any way, shape, or form. But Imperium. Speaking again, they now have 4 Dread variants for vanilla armies. You've got your Ballistus, you have your Redemptor, and you have your Agastus. What is it? What's the one with claws? Redemptor chassis with claws. I'm losing
Brutalis.
all my Gladius? Brutalis. So we're 3 variants, and we have the Stealth Walker as well for Phobos as well. So you've got 4 different modern dreadnoughts, as it were, for the Primaris Space Marines. And we've not had one equivalent thing. Well, you could say Defiler as a walker, as it were, but it's its own Chaos thing. I know they wanted to make Chaos its own demon engine thing. That's why we had the Spider Walkers. What are they called again? We've got the those that are great demon engines and all the rest of it. But a good old fashioned dreadnought would be fantastic.
Yeah. I feel as well. And then again, he's just said it in the chat, Celestial Lions, that World Eaters would benefit from a Murder Dread. Just a couple of chain fists, let storm across the table. 1,000 Suns Dreadnought, I don't know how it works. Like, rule-wise, is it just a big walking sarcophagus? Probably. But that's what a Dreadnought is. But yeah, I also have said this before, and I'll say it again. I think the Hellbrute model looks like shit.
Yeah.
I've never liked, when I got back into this, I always liked the old Forge World Dreads.
Yeah.
From back in the day, because everything had its flavour, and you could just buy the body, and it'd go on a standard box Dread, and you were fine. But yeah, it's just properly what they are lacking is just like you could have a non-specific faction Dread, which could go across all your other legions or your own war bands or whatever, and then 4 flavors. But
you could then have like your 1,000 Sun Dreadnought having some sort of aura buff because he's such a powerful psyker. Because I'm pretty sure that's what the most powerful psychers that died in the battlefield went into Dreadnought. So you could have the same way with Death Guard. You'd have the most bloodiest of champions for World Eaters, and then fucking Wordbearers, just some guy standing on top of a sarcophagus reading the Bible or something.
Yeah, I suppose Blood Angels have got a librarian and a Dreadnought already.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's been taken out though. I don't know if that was in their last rulebook now, the Librarius Dread, because it was an old box Dread, and they've all been filtered out now.
Oh yeah, I need to catch up with the times.
Yeah,
the contempt model is the quality anyway.
Because the nerds would go absolutely batshit for it, like because we all know how much they went mad shit for that Emperor's Children Dreadnought that sat asleep for 100,000 years and then tried to blow up children.
Oh, sorry, I'm still on.
Ancient Rylanor.
Yeah, like we all know that we all loved him. Do you know what I mean? Like if they were to bring back some fucking Dreadnought from the 30k
live
universe.
TV. Don't you love live TV? Yeah, it does feel like a proper missed opportunity. But But I mean, I sort of looked at for a little while doing a Chaos army and just using Primaris minis and just putting loads of spikes on them.
Yeah. I mean, but that's you definitely could now because there's Primaris in the lore. The Primaris chapters have already fallen to Chaos. It's been 10 years now. They fixed their lore of where they want to go. They're 10 years now post Guilliman coming back, and yeah, you could have Chaos Primaris now, and that would be fine. I do like the revamp of Chaos that's come out in the last few years. I think the new Chaos Marines were all really nice. Yes, it's all that trim. Emperor's Children were fantastic.
Horsehead's ones were blinding.
Yeah. I think all that has been great for Chaos. I suppose it's the rich getting richer, But then again, I think all of that's been great. But Dark Angels in particular have eaten really well, so I can't really sit here complaining too much about Games Workshop because the Dark Angels, in terms of the Deathwing revamp, we've had decals, we've had upgrade sprues, we've had the Inner Circle companions, which are like the best Dark Angels models. I bought more bodies to make more custom Dark Angels that are still sitting around for my Stern Guard. We had Azrael, which is beautiful. Then we had the Lion. We've had Asmodai come back. The only character we're missing is Samael out of the original, and Ezekiel and Samael, which we might get in 11th edition.
Would you give yourself a new Cypher model? Would you update him?
Yes.
I like the one that's at the moment. I've not finished painting him. I've got him here. I'm painting him the same colour as the Lion, which is a bit different. So I'm painting his suit that sort of off teal green. He's not actually attached to his base. Oh well. I like that one with the lion sword that looks exactly like the one from 30k. So on his back. So I really like that. I like his archaic looking pistol. I prefer him to the. I don't think we need a new Cypher as yet. I would like an updated Fallen kit, but that's the Fallen kit back in the day were just Dark Angels veterans painted black, and the Fallen kit always struggled because it was in Chaos armies, and it was just Dark Angels painted black, and I don't think anyone used it, and they only had special rules that applied to when you played Dark Angels, so. I think the ironic thing was they only had really good special rules when they played against Dark Angels, but they also had negatives because Dark Angels would have special rules against them. So they were a sort of double-edged sword back in like 3rd and 4th edition, 5th edition when you played Fallen. So no one ever played them. They were very much just a lore type army.
And how would it work now anyway, considering the Lion came back and was just like, yeah, if you want to say sorry, that's cool.
Yes, this is true. I'm re-listening. I've got a copy of Lion, Son of the Forest, and I'm now re-listening to the audiobook, just because I needed a break from the Dawn of Fire series, and I'm like, this is so good. I love this book.
It was just weird. Like they were just like, how do we sort this out? How do we figure out the fact that they've chased each other around the galaxy for 10,000 years? Let's just have the Lion say it's okay if you say sorry.
It's cool.
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Basically, just we're going to make the Lion not autistic. He's managed to age his way out of autism. Congratulations, and he now is able to understand other people's emotions, and is still paranoid, but not as paranoid as he used to be. And he'll be able to forgive them. That'll be fine.
Imagine if you were the interrogator chaplain for the Dark Angels and fucking Jamie Lannister comes on and goes, by the way, anybody that says they're sorry, you've got to give them the option. If they don't say they're sorry, then you can kill them. And then the chaplain's standing there after just freshly killing a fallen going, oh, if I'd known that 5 minutes ago.
Exactly. This guy begged his innocence the entire 10 hours. I was torturing him. I feel really bad.
It's some sort of Monty Python sketch. It's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, dude, what are you doing to me?
Asmodai standing there awkwardly with a pile of corpses, been like, "Oh, that's Asmodai."
Daisy.
He wasn't a fallen. He was just a very naughty boy.
He's not the fallen. He's a very naughty boy. Oh man!
Oh, dear. Lore holes for days. We love it.
So, what are you looking forward to in Olympics? Would it tempt you to do an orc army with these new orc models, or are you got enough there to be painting just now?
I'm probably not. I've not picked up Armageddon. I think I probably will because there's still loads around. And I don't have Vanguard veterans. I do have a ton of intercessors, so I'm not that. But the intercessors are posed lovely. You know, the new ones are really posed really nice. They're really dynamic. I love a good standard space marine that's just posed really nicely. And I can definitely do some Dark Angel converting on them. I love the Eradicators. I love heavy intercessors. I've got more of those to paint. I just like big, for Gravis armor. I've not been entirely sold on it. I don't think GW are sold on it either. That's why we've got Terminators back and revamped. So, but I do like heavy intercessors and I like Eradicators. I like heavy bolters. I like things with heavy bolters. So I'm totally on board for them. I think all the character models in Armageddon are fantastic.
Yeah.
Will I keep the orcs though? I don't think so. I like the concept of orcs, but maybe you never know. I'm quite the hoarder, which is the whole issue with the pile of shame. So maybe will I sell them right away? I don't know. I've still got a few Eldari units to paint. I've got an Eldar starter that I've not got round to doing that I won from a painting competition about 3 years ago. So you might elves. I've always been a fan of elves back in the day. I might bring the elves out for a run to try something different. But I've also got a chaos army that was the start of my Emperor's Children army before they then revealed. I started it in sort of late 9th, moving into 10th, and then they announced the actual Emperor's Children. So I was like, crap! I've got 20 Legionnaires here, and a box of Havocs, and a box of Chaos Terminators, and some other stuff for the spiders again. I've got 2 spiders. I've got a Hellbrute. I've got an ass looking Hellbrute. So yeah, Ryan, don't blame the Angels for your poor performance. I won 3 games in 10th. Well, I didn't play the Angels for all of 10th. I played Emperor's Children, so I can blame them instead. Obviously.
And what is it about the Emperor's Children that made you want to play them? What?
The book Fulgrim by Graham McNeil. Fulgrim by Graham McNeil. I'd always liked the Emperor's Children because of their fancy boyness anyway, and Fulgrim's all, that sort of, vampiric, pale, tall aesthetic vibe going on, and with the shiny purple and gold armor. It was so ostentatious and nonsensy that I really liked it. And I think because going back in my lore connections, High Elves always had a big connection to Slannesh in Warhammer, so it sort of evolved out of reading a lot about that back then, and then moving into 40k, it was like, well, these are the Slannesh Marines, and I was interested in that. And then you read Fulgrim. I know people, you've made it as a 40k book when people are still talking about you 10, 15 years later, though that book's 15 years old. There's certain ones that people are still talking about. The core of like Dan Abnett, Aaron Dembski-Bowden, and Graham McNeil in the hobby. People are still talking about their books 10 years after. I mean, Aaron Dembski-Bowden hasn't written a Warhammer book for about 4 or 5 years at this point. So, and Graham McNeil has moved off and done. He's now doing stuff in the US. He's not written a Warhammer book for about 5 years. So all these people have moved on, but people are still talking about what they contributed to the lore back in the day. So Fulgrim, the whole relationship with him and Ferrus Manus, the fall, the way some were preserved and some weren't. It's a more convincing fall than Horus in second Horus Heresy book, False Gods. That didn't. It didn't read quite as well, and even that's a Graham McNeil book as well, but it didn't. I think the fall was handled much better in Fulgrim to Chaos. It's explained better where Chaos is really a choice for each individual. You can be corrupted by it only if you let it. If you at some point even subconsciously decide I'm going for this, and that's what Horus did, and that's what Fulgrim did. But it's better explained in Fulgrim.
So it's your choice if you want to rob this baby's chocolate off the cup.
It's free if you take it. If you take it, it's free. Go on.
So, see, just going into the lore a minute, it's a question that I've been thinking. There's a kind of theory that I've been thinking of for a while. So we all know that Big E made the 20 Primarchs, and then the powers that be sent them on a wee holiday over the galaxy. Do you think the powers that be then, in a way, designed the first captains so they would be kind of sleeper agents to help the fall of the Primarchs?
Oh, absolutely. There's no, well, it fits with the lore of 40k. It's one of those scenarios of, does the lore sell models, or do the models sell lore, in the sense of each of the Chaos Legions that fall coincidentally have a champion of that god. You know, Typhus is the champion of Nurgle. He's actually slightly more favoured by Nurgle than Mortarion. You know, Lucius equally is slightly more favoured by Slannesh than Fulgrim. All that sort of, these individuals come to embody the god more so than the Primarchs do in a way. But those were easier, smaller models to sell back in, you know, the 2000s. And Primarchs went back. But the lore,
in the lore aspect, in the lore aspect, you think it's because Eidolon was the first captain of the Emperor's Children. So do you think Chaos put them in positions like they did with Luthor as well, to be able to help maybe to try and make all the Primarchs fall?
It's possible. It's definitely possible. It's that way of the you know, Chaos Undivided as a concept has all the abilities of Tzeentch to plan. You know, there was elements of those plans in a very Alpha Legion way. You know, seeded back when before the Emperor left Terra. You know, they were planning the long game. Even the Emperor knew about it. They mentioned that in what is it again? The one where the Emperor fights in the Webway. I used to know all this off by heart. Where he gets up off the throne but in the main Horus Heresy series, Master of Mankind. Of Mankind, he shows a vision to one of the custodians, Ammon. No, it's not Ammon Tarmakian. Right? It's one of the other ones. So he shows him this vision. He says, this is the goal. The goal is I'm going to get to this island, and I'm going to get in this boat, and I'm going to go there. But I don't know everything that's going to. I know that's the start point, and this is the destination. My future vision is based on, I know I can get there, but I don't know everything that's going to happen exactly in between. And that's where Chaos slips into it. Their plan was to put as many things in play into that boat's journey to, the Emperor's plan of being we will not be reliant on the warp. We're going to escape into the webway. We will separate humanity from psychic powers, and that will save humanity from chaos permanently. So he knows what his goal is, but I think you're right. Chaos seeded as many rocks and tidal waves, and part of that was the human flaws of, not only the Primarchs, but those around them. Because most, that's what's the there's no coincidence that the Mournival is split cleanly in two. There's two on either side. It makes a good story, of course. These things are designed by people writing stories, but it fits that. Horus has 4 advisors, each of them representing different aspects of his own personality. In that sense, and the more warlike and negative traits are the ones that win out. Abaddon's, especially earlier on, is much more violent and aggressive and direct. And he actually evens out over time as he loses and sort of realizes that even himself has gone too far by the end of the siege, and he's trying to win it with Space Marines and not with demons and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Meanwhile, little Horus is the more sycophantic and agreeable and gives up and then becomes terribly depressed after he loses his face and, is looking for death. Meanwhile, Loken is, he's not as charismatic as Torgadon. He's not everyone's friend like Torgadon, but he's virtuous and he's the right amount of balance of pride. He's not going to charm everyone, but he's right. He's the right aspect of Horus and his rep. So those sorts of splits, who they all had around them, I think that was a good way to evolve them. Typhus, on the other hand, is just like, I love his story and reading him in the Mortarion book, where he's just like, I was a bastard to begin with, and I'm a bastard at the end. Like, he's, I think the first time he meets Mortarion and Mortarion saves him, he's already using sorceress powers, and then Mortarion's like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, fuck you, I'll do it if I fucking want, It's like even Erebus's origin story, like, he murdered the person called Erebus to become Erebus. But, see, the only
Legion that we really don't know much about the first captain would be the Alpha Legion, because it's always Alpharius. It's never, it very rarely mentions
There's
their
only
first
two that
captain.
are separate characters. It's Inglepesh and what's the other chap's name? It's Inglepesh is probably the lead one that we always see, and it's him that gets wrapped up in the finale of the Siege of Terra. And there's one other Alpha Legion that's the Legionnaire that gets a name as well, and it's. Yeah, and they don't really. I've not read any books where they interact with Alpharius that much. I've not read the separate Alpharius books, to be honest. I've not read the Primarch book, and I've not read the sort of 40k Alpha Legion books either, which I think explain a lot more of their background and lore. I think it's Harrowmaster or something is the Alpha Legion one. So that, I think you're right. I'm not sure. They don't show a lot of Alpharius or Omegon interacting with Inglepesh, or unlike, Horus and Abaddon have several scenes throughout the thing, and Fulgrim and Eidolon and is it what's his name? The other Lord Commander who gets killed, who gets murdered. Vespasian. Vespasian is the other Lord Commander. Yeah, Vespasian. So again, there's Eidolon already is the part of Fulgrim that gives in. He's already getting modified by Lucius like days after the first campaign. Meanwhile, Vespasian is left behind because he's this older aspect of the Legion that's more noble, and he's got the same ideas as Saul Tarvitz about purity and doing the right thing, doing things the right way and stuff. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a good way to look at it, that the first captains and those core sort of command echelons are used as reflections of the Primarch's personality to show why they're making the decisions the way they are, and that they give in to their worst, baser natures.
Yeah.
I find it always funny about Perturabo, because he doesn't seem to like any of his first captains and his top men. Like, you've got all the guys that turn up in the later Iron Warriors novels. Honsu isn't around then until much later. You've got Honourable Sulaka, who he doesn't really, once again, he doesn't like. And then there's the Khorne Berserker guy that he doesn't really like, but he uses to take the Lionsgate spaceport and stuff. And yeah,
I can't remember the names of any of the three of them. He's
I keep wanting to say Ferrus Manus, but Foryx, that's it. Foryx is already depressed. Foryx is depressed when he dies in 40k, and Foryx was depressed, at the start of 30k.
Yeah.
He's just
Do
consistently
you think that was deliberate, because he doesn't see them as worthy of being remembered, so we don't remember them, but we remember all the other first captains of the legions that we hate and we love, like.
And that was the Iron Warriors' big complaint in the lore, is they don't have the legendary status of, they would say, Abaddon is known throughout the whole galaxy. He's the greatest Space Marine warrior. Everyone knows Abaddon, but no one knows the first captain of the Iron Warriors, because nobody gives a fuck, because they don't get the glory missions, and that's what they were resentful of.
Yeah.
No, it was that, even the promotion of your man who was just turned into like the bloodthirsty Khorne Berserker, like the whole way through the book with him and Fulgrim, when it was, where even he's sort of like, why have I been promoted? Why am I here? Like, and it just starts off, and then by the end of it, he's just like, I'm gonna fucking murder her. And that whole book tried his rise and fall to what he turns out to be in the Iron Warriors books really nicely, I thought. And then obviously the birth of Honsu and all of that sort of stuff. But Perturabo doesn't even like himself, so that, of course, that's going to fall into his sons. He walks around with robot bodyguards rather than actual Marine bodyguards, so
doesn't even trust his own sons.
And let's face it, he did do the Rick James, what did the five fingers say to the face, which I think is my favourite moment about any heresy book.
Yes, it is funny in Angel Exterminatus that when other people write Fulgrim, he's gone full Skeletor. You know, in the book Fulgrim, he's got nuance and pathos, and he agonises about his decisions before giving in to the bad side of him, and then he's upset about his relationship with Ferris. He's convinced he could have convinced Ferris, then he has to kill him, but then he regrets killing him. But then by the time he gets to Angel Exterminatus, he's just behind Perturabo going, yes, yes.
Embracing his inner villain.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be the villain now, and I like it.
I'm going to fully embrace my Skeletor life.
Absolutely. Loving that best Skeletor life. Until next time.
So it's a question that we've asked everybody the last wee while. I'm going to ask you, obviously when Element's now kicking off, who do you want to come back on Primark side, and who do you want to come back, but who do you really think will come back?
Okay, who do I want to come back? I want Jagatai Khan to come back for the loyalists. I don't think he will. I think while they are very popular, across the board, they're not Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Ultramarines, or Black Templars, these sorts of. There's the three cores. There's Dark Angels, Blood Angels, and Space Wolves. In terms of non-codex chapters, they get their own special books, their own special models, their own special shit. Black Templars get a free pass. They're not even first founding. They get their own special themed nonsense. So, but not enough that I think they would bring Rogel Dorn back into the fray. It's a maybe. It's a maybe on that. So I would like Jagatai Khan to come back, because I love his books. I love the books that include Jagatai Khan. The White Scars are awesome. When he fights Mortarion in the Siege of Terra is just the best. It's just fantastic. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think all of them will come back eventually, and then they'll all get blown up like AOS, and we'll get 50k. I think what will really determine that is if the Amazon deal and TV show flops. If that all falls apart, then I think the cycle will eventually come up to maybe 50k or some such variation again, and 40k will become stagnant in that sense. But I think if it's fine, it'll become like Star Wars and run forever. No matter how bad it gets, it'll be able to revive itself like Star Trek or Star Wars. 40k will just live in some form forever at that stage.
I think you can get away with that with 40k solely because of the lore and how inaccurate it can be.
Yeah.
They can just retcon things really quite quickly. So that was from Dave's story, and Dave doesn't know what he was talking about. But if you listen to Tom's story, then Tom's speaking the truth.
That's it, and they did it already from 8th to 9th. They were like, we made it this whole thing where Rabuti Gilliman comes back, and then the Indomitus Crusade runs for 200 years. And the Primaris Minis are around for 200 years, and that's where we are now. And then they realised, wait, that's too long for all the things we want to fit in, and it's such a wide amount of time that all these new characters we wanted to introduce, a bit like Horus Heresy, they'll all be dead. If we make it 200 years long. So all the humans will be dead, but the Space Marines might be around, but the humans will all be dead, so that's not going to work. So we're going to make it 10 years, which is a tiny amount of time, but it's also roughly the same amount of time as the Horus Heresy. So it makes it feel a bit denser in terms of all the stuff happening within 10 years, but they themselves realise that length of time is just too long for everything happening. And also, that was what the first 10,000 years of 40k were. Nothing happened. Big things happened. Big wars happened. Armageddon happened, and the Apostasy Age happened, and all these things happened. But it didn't really change the layout of the galaxy. But the end of 7th moving into 8th really did, so they had to change the lore about it, but they changed it too much and then retconned, like you say. They pulled it back and said, we didn't mean that, it's different, we're just at 10 years after it, don't worry about it.
Who would you like to see come back from the Chaos side? And who do you think will come back from the Chaos side? I
would like to see Lorgar. Because I would like to see a full Demon Primarch Lorgar, because he's a bit like Erebus in that sense. Everyone hates Lorgar in that sense, but I think in terms of the story, where both the Lion and Gilliman are, Lorgar represents something really difficult for them as an opponent, because not only because now with the power of chaos he can actually outfight them. He never was able to before. He was always the weakest of the brothers. He was never as well trained. He could talk a good game, but he wasn't the fighter. Lorgar now beats down greater demons casually because he is so souped up on chaos juice. And in both their books, just reading the Lion book recently, and the most recent Gilliman books, they're struggling with the religiosity of the Emperor. And the Emperor even seems to be embracing it. Like at the end of the Plague Wars, Gilliman only wins because the Emperor basically says, turns on a switch directly to Gilliman and powers him up to fight Mortarion. He was losing. Mortarion was going to fucking kill him. That was how that fight was going. He didn't actually have a chance against Demon Primarch Mortarion in the book. He was being slapped down, and then the Emperor had to literally dial up the power to smack him back and banish Mortarion. So Lorgar, they all go on about he wrote the book on which religion in the Imperium is now based on. That's a lie on top of a lie, and lies are what destroyed the first Imperium. So he represents this much more existential threat in terms of religiosity and what the word bearers are. And it would be a shame actually, because it'd be a difficult thing, because Abaddon and the Black Legion, despite their role, almost fall by the wayside, because the Primarchs, their interpersonal rivalries are more important 10,000 years later than actually Abaddon is. Abaddon's not Horus. He is in many ways. He's more powerful than Horus in some aspects and can fight a Primarch now and all the rest of it. But to them, to their rivalries, he's not Horus in that sense. So that might take something away from Abaddon, and he's a fantastic model and a better story now than he's ever had. And his Black Legion books by ADV were fantastic, which is still not finished as a trilogy. There's 2 books. We need a trilogy. So I would like Lorgar to come back, but all the rumours point towards Perturabo. All these rumours, and there's been artwork released of what Perturabo looks like. So I think he's pretty much a solid one for 11th edition, which I like because he's a different tone of Chaos Space Marine, in the sense of, you've got the Black Legion, they've got all their trim and all the rest of it, but Iron Warriors look very different. They got their Iron Warrior upgrade kit. You got Kravik Morn come out recently. That's a very different style of Chaos Space Marine. They're more into their demon engines as opposed to corrupting themselves, so that might open some opportunities for new models. So I think it's going to be Perturabo. I think Jagadai Khan would have been my loyalist pick, but I think it's going to be Russ. I think there's been enough scattered stuff about Russ's, they can't bring back Sanguinius. They just can't. There's rumours of it, but especially after how good, Ending the Death was and the tragedy of it and what it meant to be Sanguinius and his loss. You've got a lovely Sanguinor model, which is their sort of centrepiece. That was a lovely upgrade. That looks great. It would take something away from the Sanguinor if they bring Sanguinius back. And it makes it more tragic, his loss. All the Primarchs wanted to be Sanguinius, so him being missing just ties into the corruption and loss in 40k. But I think it's probably going to be Russ, because he's part of that. It's either Blood Angels, Dark Angels, or Space Wolves. And Space Wolves, he's got a story. He went off missing. He can come back as, I would love to see him come back as, yes, a grizzled, really ancient Wolf King vibe going on, but also can transform into a fucking werewolf from time to time, even though he was never that into that, and people have gone a bit against that stuff. There's too much wolfiness in Space Wolves. People don't really like. They tend to like more Viking.
Here's a question for you, right? This is something I've actually just thought up of on the fly, but it's probably something that people have thought of for a long, long time. What would happen though, right? So say they decide to bring back the wolf, right? And it turns out that he's actually fell to chaos, and they bring back Lorgar, and he's fell the other way. How do you think the community cope with that?
They'd shit themselves.
They'd shit themselves, yeah. I think they would shit themselves, yeah. I think...
Because really the only person that you could really see help redeem the Imperium and the Emperor would be Lorgar.
We could redeem Lorgar would be too much, but I don't know how that would work.
It's one of those things where...
The New Testament.
It's difficult. You're right. It's one of those scenarios where is there one that could come back? It's because that's the opportunity Magnus has in the Siege of Terra. The Thousand Sons book in the Siege of Terra. And even the Emperor hides that from Vulcan. I'm pretty sure that's real. He says to Magnus, if you give up your sons, I will cleanse you, and you can have the Grey Knights. And then when Magnus fights Vulcan, he says, well, the Emperor, I chose not to sacrifice my sons. The Emperor offered me this. And Vulcan says, no, he didn't. The Emperor cast you out. I saw you. I was there. So the Emperor keeps all these cards close to his chest. So no one's entirely beyond redemption in that sense. So, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they could switch them. Because they said that about, what was it, Korax? The one bit of lore we have about Korax is he's hunting Lorgar through the warp, and wherever Lorgar goes, he keeps seeing ravens following him, and then this raven-like monster keeps appearing, suggesting, I don't know if Korax is falling to chaos or he's just gone, warp power. He's just embraced his warp abilities that he's always had and gone full, thematic raven shit. But does that mean he's falling to chaos? He just uses chaos powers and, all that sort of dodgy halfway house like Eisenhorn, where you play about with chaos powers and before you know it, you're the corrupt one and all that sort of vibe.
Yeah. It'd be brave to do because, I think Celestian Lion said he loved it when there was, space wolves that were half chaos. You could see anybody that's trying to follow chaos, it would be the space wolves. But I'm going to ask you another question here. I'm changing up the subjects a wee bit here. Because you mentioned the TV show,
Yeah.
Do you think it's best overall, looking at it and seeing the shit show that Star Wars has been, that they just leave it alone and don't make it a TV show, and we can all dream about how we would best do it? Because that when the first thing comes out, people are going to go absolutely rage.
I was worried about it. What has reassured me about Amazon is the Fallout TV series, because I am a big Fallout gaming fan, and they let it's the thing that was lost with Star Wars. It was quite funny when they were promoting that first Force Awakens movie. They were saying, well, the fans that grew up with it are finally the ones making the movies. And then it came out, and I was like, well, this is just A New Hope, but with a fresh lick of paint on it, with new stuff on it. Like, okay, yeah. Right, okay, I'll let it go. And they did new stuff with The Last Jedi, but this the stuff they did was it just didn't work for me. I'm not saying I want the same film over again, but I've seen new stories in Star Wars. I've played the video games in Star Wars with new stories. Some of them are great, like Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic and stuff. You can make a different Star Wars story that's different from the 3 original films, and it'd be good and different from the prequels, which had a good core running through them, but with a lot of extraneous bullshit on top, which was a shame. But that's George Lucas. You can't capture lightning in a bottle every time. Sometimes it's a turd in that bottle.
Well, all we have to do is watch Ed the Duck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's sometimes you can be a genius director that doesn't get it right. Even Spielberg's had a few bad films out there. You can. Ridley Scott, I love Ridley Scott films, but from time to time, Ridley Scott just absolutely horses it. And it's like, well, never mind.
Shit.
Yeah. I've not even watched Napoleon, and I was totally ready for an era, if that was good, of Napoleonic war films. Because I think if you get a good one that makes a ton of money, then there's 10 more films just like it.
Yep.
This is why Lord of the Rings, the next 10 years of films, even small budget films, were knights and battles and all that sort of stuff. So Howard the Duck, Ed the Duck. Just what a load of duck that was. And so if Napoleon had been good, I was ready for someone to turn around to Bernard Cornwell and say, we're going to do a sharp film with a decent budget this time. Okay, we can't have Sean Bean, he's too old, but we're going to have a big scale British James Bond fucking Napoleonic hero in Richard Sharp redone. But then Napoleon didn't make enough money, and therefore no one was interested. So that's the way it goes.
They had it in their hands, and it's one of my favourite films of Russell Crowe's. Master and Commander.
I knew you were going to say that. It's a great film.
Seen it.
I mean,
I've never seen it.
that
I've
was
heard I need to see it. Yeah.
Oh, mate, you need to watch it. It's one of those films where you're thinking, I want to see a second one. Because it's just so well filmed. Like, even, there's a bit where they go on about somebody being a Jonah, and even, like, the surgeon turns around to Russell Crowe and goes, you don't believe in that, do you? And he just goes, do you know what I mean? It's like, it really does want you to look into, like, Bernard Cromwell's, like, Napoleonic war films, and it's like, Master and Commander. I think even Russell Crowe said he would have liked to have done another 2 or 3 of them because it did set up for more.
It was a whole series of books as well, Master and Commander. It was the first 2 books they crammed together. I still need to watch it because I think everyone who's seen it loves it. It just, again, it's a shame where Hollywood works. If it doesn't make the right amount of money, you're not going to get another one, or if it doesn't sell toys. We weren't going to get a Master and Commander series of action figures. You know what I mean? It's the real difficulty of
just kids pushing around huge plastic boats at each other. Like you've got to speak in a French accent. You're the French Navy.
Like all the kids running about in Napoleonic French war costumes at Halloween, just like those kids just love their gendarmes.
Some little kid running around. Your emperor has returned, but old Napoleon.
That's wee Johnny down the road. He fucking loves Napoleon, man. Johnny just can't get enough of Napoleon. He can't
get enough of fucking Waterloo.
That boy loves water. Him and his mates just marching about in block formation, just like the original formations. But Stevie and the other guys down the street, they go in lines like the British Army. That's what they do.
But I like Master and Commander. I think it's one of those ones where I'm thinking maybe you're right with Fallout, but I mean, is that one show that's done well? Like, I know Celestial Line was saying there about fucking Andor, but for me, I thought the first half of the first season of Andor was shit. It was boring. I mean, it's like, I've watched The Acolyte, but I've missed out the episodes where it does the witchy bullshit, because it's a much better series.
Yeah.
If you watch it without the flashbacks, and if you just concentrate on Darth Smiley, that's really, for me, made the Acolyte.
I really like The Acolyte. I think it's more about culture and where we are in terms of culture, that it's hard to make art that appeals to certain demographics, especially in the US and the Western world, because people are so easy to take offence at different things. The thing about The Acolyte, they were like, it's all women, and it's this, women's decision, all these other sorts of things, and it was like, oh man, I like The Acolyte. I thought the lightsaber battles in it were brilliant.
Yeah.
I just think I wish they'd been brave enough in Star Wars and going, listen, we're going to do Knights of the Old Republic. We're going to go back.
That's what it needed.
And they almost did it. They went, we're going to go to High Republic, which is 1,000 years before, and that's fine. Or is it 200 years before? I can't remember. It's High Republic era.
Exactly.
100 years before.
It was long before the Sith War with Revan and Malak and all of that stuff.
Yes, yeah. The great thing about KOTOR was it's 4,000 years before. It's a whole different setup. You can do what you want with it, but as long as you have people drawing lightsaber blades, probably people will buy into it. And I kind of bought into The Acolyte for that, and that was,
I think Rogue One showed that you don't need to have lightsaber fights to make a good Star Wars film. I liked Rogue One. Don't get me wrong. When Darth Vader got his lightsaber out, my lightsaber drew a wee bit as well. I'm not going to get you wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, those are the 2 best bits in modern Star Wars. It was Luke in as in Jedi, Luke in Mandalorian, and Vader at the end, because it showed how important Jedi were at that stage, where they were so rare that, Mandalorian and the boys are in the corner, they're fucked. We're like, these dark troopers are coming through the door and we are all going to die, and that sort of, and it's that vibe as well of the rebels all in that corridor, like, we'll hold our ground, and they are brick it, they're like, that just shows you the power level of why a Sith is such a threat to normal people, and sort of that aspect. Those are brilliant bits. Love those.
I also thought that they were great little storytelling moments, because when you're watching the only real flavor you got for Jedi were the second trilogy, episode 1, 2, 3. Yeah. But because Jedi are fucking everywhere, they don't feel special.
Yes. Yeah.
And then when you see Luke and Vader have their little rucks, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Vader have their little rucks again. It feels like a bit of a, oh, what's this? And then you're done. So for them to just both turn up and wreck shit, it actually it proper brings it back to this little level of mysticism about them of, by the way, these guys are rare as fuck. These guys, this is what they can do if we let them loose.
Yeah, this is why we talk about them. This is why we're all, apart from that one captain in the very first film where he just insults Vader's religion to his face.
Everyone's got that one supervisor who's a bit of a shithouse.
Yeah,
also, I also enjoyed, though, in A New Hope when Vader's questioning Leia for the first time. And there's that dude just standing next to him, just questioning him openly, like, you sure we want to be holding her? It's a bit risky. And Vader's like, nah, fuck off, bruv. But they're cool with it. They're cool with each other. They're like, mates, it's fine. But then you never see anyone else talk to Vader on that level after that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
The only person that can speak to Vader the way he wants, apart from Big P, is Tarkin.
Yes.
And you see Vader going full out madness because Tarkin is one of the only people that knew who Darth Vader was before he was Darth Vader. But see, there's been, over all the shows, there's been some really good moments in every single, maybe apart from Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett. Like for me, the very start of Ahsoka, where grumpy Obi-Wan Kenobi goes, "We are no Jedi." And then, because it's similar, it's a similar scene to the start of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And he just kills him with "We are no Jedi," and he just kills your man from Aliens. And the bit in the Acolyte where Darth Smiley, you just see him coming down from the trees, silent behind, and that sends me. That to me is probably one of the best bit of the entire series, just with Darth Smiley levitate, because you always see something different in the shows with the powers. But for me, Star Wars should have looked at all the canon that's out there, and then picked and chose from it instead of trying the new trilogy. They maybe should have introduced Thrawn as a kind of heir to the Empire, and maybe because in the legend stuff, the Emperor does the clones, so you could bring him back through cloning. They just half-assed it.
This is what they did. They did those bits. You had your clones and you had Palpatine back. I think the thing that's hobbling Star Wars now is they've trapped themselves into the original trilogy stuff they can do afterwards. So your Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, the in-between stage between First Order and Empire. The problem is it's heading towards that turd. It's like a giant turd iceberg in the distance that no matter how good the stuff they put in place before, Luke's Jedi Academy, all the rest of it, it's all building up to when they shit it in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. There's some good bits in Rise of Skywalker, but it's like, there was so many. They're like a whole 5 minutes out of a 2-hour long film. Lando Calrissian turns up. That was cool.
I mean, I can understand what they were trying to do, what Rian Johnson was trying to do in The Last Jedi by trying to steer it in a different direction. But I think it was poor. The jokes didn't make sense. There's too many Marvel jokes in it for me. Like they made a mum joke. I said this before. They made a mum joke. Do you know what I mean? Like that's
that whole sequence where you're on hold. Like,
yeah.
But
I like that they were bringing in more themes that the Star Wars goes back and forth, but the rich are always selling weapons to both sides. The who are immoral. There were some good ideas in the core of that. It doesn't need to all be about light and dark. The billionaires in the background are fucking things over.
Why aren't we fighting InGen and the fucking the Sign-Our systems?
Sign-Our systems who make Star Destroyers. Why are we not fucking those guys over? Because they're you need weapons contractors to build a fucking Death Star.
Incom, not InGen. Incom was Star Wars. InGen is Jurassic Park.
Yes. So
who is RoboCop? Was that InGen as well?
No, that's OCP bullshit, bruv.
OCP, yes, OCP.
Omni Consumer Core Products. Fucking hell, how do I remember all of this shit?
Because it's one of the best films of all time.
Actually, just going back to something you said about Ridley Scott. Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh, Kingdom of Heaven. That's what
When
I'm
that
talking about.
came out, because of how it was like, I know that you've got the original edit, and much like Aliens, you've got the director's cut.
Yes,
Really
which I have on
always
Blu-ray.
says the director's cut is how it should have been watched. Because when you do watch the cinematic cut, it's like it breezes through it all, and you're just like, okay. But then when you watch the proper version, much like Alien and Aliens, it is a better, more rounded, well-produced film. And I'm not saying that Alien 1 and 2 aren't, because they're two of my favourite films of all time, but the director's cuts of those are the definitive versions.
Well, for Aliens, it makes sense to show why that they went through the shaft, because the auto sentry can stop the aliens, and that explains it in the book. So I don't understand why they cut that from the film. They could have cut out more shit with fucking your man for Beverly Hills Cop 2. You know what I mean? They could have kept that one, but that explained that the aliens can be stopped by firepower because they were.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, that's. I do want to go back and watch Napoleon and hope there's a Napoleon director's cut that I can catch up at some point, because I love the cinematic cut of Kingdom of Heaven. That's still one of my favourite films I can watch anytime. The only weak point of that is Orlando Bloom, because he's just not a strong enough leading man.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because he's outacted by everyone else around him. But that's just the way it goes. I don't know who else you would have had at that time that could have done that role, but there's just so many other actors in that film outacting him, and it's just hilarious. But,
even David I can never say his name properly. Treflis, who is
David Thewlis, who's the priest that supports him. His dad, Liam Neeson. The fucking Viking that dies right at the start is more memorable than Orlando Bloom in that, but it's still at its core such a fantastic film. And
it was tough because it was just right after Lord of the Rings as well. So he's jumping into another epic, and everyone's like, "Oh, great! It's another Legolas saves the day film," and that isn't the point of it.
No,
he's really only done 8 films, hasn't he? Really,
Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom, he didn't. I think they all made so much money on Lord of the Rings. I think they were all able to license out their images for the last 20 years, and then make money on the side that they could. A bit like Harry Potter, a bit like all the 3 original core from Harry Potter, because they licensed everything out. Like, that's why they can all do what they want or nothing at all. Which is why Rupert Grint fucking disappeared, and he's still sitting on a shit ton of money because
because people forget. It's a good pointless question. You forget Orlando Bloom's in Troy.
Yeah.
Shit, he is. Yeah. He's not. Was he Hector? No,
he was Hector's brother. He's the one that stole fucking Helen.
Yeah. Because Hector was
his fault.
Hector was the guy that played Banner.
Yeah, Eric Banner. Yeah, Eric Banner played Hector. Yeah. Odyssey's coming out. Are we excited about Odyssey by Christopher Nolan? I'm interested.
I am interested.
I've enjoyed every Christopher Nolan film I've seen. I've not seen Tenet. I've heard that's a
bloody love Tenet. It gets a lot of hate, but I bloody love it. I love the concept of it. I love the execution of it. I won't give anything away on it.
Yeah,
but I that is probably one of my favourites of his, and I've watched it like 5 or 6 times. And
what is your favourite Christopher Nolan film then? I'm going to ask yours.
Inception for me. Inception's my favourite. I love all of the Dark Knight, but the problem with the Dark Knight is, as a big core Batman fan, there's so many good bits to the Dark Knight, but but there's so much. This is why the Arkham games need to be turned into more of a film. I need my Batman to be more superhero, and they teased that with Zack Snyder, but they couldn't quite get there because of all of other Zack Snyder's bullshit. That I love Zack Snyder visually, but damn, the man likes to absolutely ruin stuff. So visually I love his work, but he's telling a story, he seems to really struggle to get it out and make it coherent or make it work. But the more bizarre elements of Batman I'd love to do and just make him more of a comic, because he's the thing about the Dark Knight Batman is they make it so, and they've done this again with Pattinson, they've made it so grounded and gritty that it just doesn't, it falls apart a little bit, where it's like, he can only be so gritted and grounded that it just stops working. It needs to be a bit of a comic, fantastical world so that you can believe a Batman can fly off a building and do all this other stuff. And like when they did in the Pattinson Batman film, where they made the bat wings just a sort of flight suit, like a parachute that he deploys from it. I get it, that's gritty and so realistic, but there's only so gritty and down you can go before it's, before it just becomes nothing. I think
it's, plugging with the Batman, like, again, The Dark Knight, I think, is one of Nolan's best films.
Yeah.
I think from start to end, it's thrilling as fuck. Heath Ledger was amazing in it.
Yeah.
But I think the Batman films recently have plugged more into the gritty, like you're saying, the gritty detectiveness of it, which isn't a bad thing. I really enjoyed the Robert Pattinson Batman. I thought when they named him as him, I was like, really?
Yeah, I was the same. I was like not excited.
He was sick.
I agree. I love all the detective stuff. I love that Riddler interplay, the solving of crimes, and he gets it wrong. The Riddler actually wits him at the end and he loses to a degree. They're trying to lean into that aspect of it. And they're making it more, maybe No Man's Land style Gotham next time, where Gotham is partially collapsed. And No Man's Land was a great sequence of comics as well. There was some great stuff in No Man's Land. But I really do want them to get to... I want them to do Nightfall properly. They kind of did Nightfall with The Dark Knight Rises with Bane and the breaking stuff. But Nightfall... almost needs two films of its own. You need Azrael, Azrael Batman and stuff, and all these other cool things they could do. More comic bookiness. Comic bookiness. That's what I'm after.
Yeah. Which you might get, I suppose, with the current.
We might get that with Gunn if it lives. This is the problem with the new DC universe I'm worried about. Superman, I really enjoyed. It didn't make as much money as they were hoping for. Yeah. Supergirl's reviews are middling to good, but that's not going to see you. I just don't. I don't know where it is, where culture is at the moment, man. I don't know if it is just genuine superhero fatigue.
Do you think it's because I think it is that fatigue, but we're just getting too many superheroes and it's too many reboots too quick?
It could be. Yeah. It could be. It's you think about it like there's been someone said it in the chat there. There's been so many Batman films. We're up to 10 or 12 Batman films now, different types of Batman. But then again, there's been 40 James Bond films. So some things just keep on going and can evolve and work.
I think with the superhero stuff, you are right. There is like the fatigue of it. I haven't seen if there's any Marvel films coming out this year, but they have constantly churned at least one a year out, sometimes two. And after Endgame, they should have just said, right, we're taking a break.
I think that's because we're getting TV shows now as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of those TV shows are fantastic. But I think it's more who we are. If you think about it again, it's just the time scale. 8th edition was 10 years ago, but the start of the MCU was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So we were all different people as the main demographic back then. We were young 20-year-old guys without partners, and it built into, we were able to fund it and, go to every film and build that sort of relationship with it. And then it concluded with Endgame, with all the main demographic being in their mid-30s, give or take. But now it sort of has to start again. And this is what they're talking about with the end of this Phase 4, I think it is, for Marvel. They're going to Secret Wars it. That's going to name it. Secret Wars is this, I think, finale battle where you can pull in any hero you want, essentially, because a god sort of rearranges it. Because Secret Wars was like way back in the 70s and they did it then. And then they're talking about they're going to reboot it. They're going to go right back to the start. So we're going to get Iron Man again, a different Iron Man. We're going to do another Spider-Man again. We're going to go right round the sequence again. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, just rinse, repeat for the kids. That's what it is.
That's it.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed
CGI.
The most recent Jurassic Park film compared to the second and third of the reboot. I actually enjoyed the Scarlett Johansson. I actually thought it was actually a nice, different kind of take.
Well, there's only two Jurassic Park films. They're either in a park and escaping the said park, or they're on a hunt looking for dinosaurs. And this one was a hunt one. So, and I liked it as well. It was based on one of the original books, and I think it worked quite well. They put it together, and I thought it was really cool and a bit different. Just Jurassic World and Jurassic Park are probably peaks of it. Having it in those sort of theme parks where it all goes wrong, just those were probably the peaks. I think the original, and it still holds up now. Well, it really does.
But even Jurassic Park 2 is good. I mean, because it's a lot darker.
And you get a T-Rex roaming about a city, which is cool.
Yeah. Aye. I mean, I actually probably prefer the second Jurassic Park film from the first.
What?
I think it's just because you're seeing a bigger body count in the dinosaurs than hunting the humans. For me, it's kind of like Aliens that way, where they're sent into rescue, but then they're being hunted themselves, and then it's a case of survival for me. I mean, like that bit where they're running, it's kind of like the Mummy 2, is it? Where they're running through the long grass, and then the wee pygmy guys are like hunting them down.
Those guys, yeah.
That's like that with the raptors for me in Jurassic World 2.
Yes, that was a good sequence, actually. Yeah, but I
especially the wee pygmy guy jumping on the guy's head in the quicksand to stomp him down. That's good.
Great film. Fucking love the Mummy films. Yeah, I think you're. Sorry, I'm gonna have to say you're wrong, Dunk. The first Jurassic Park is the best one.
That's fine. That's fine, mate. You can be wrong all you want.
You have to be really aware of it to be like,
Oh my God, it's Dodson! And then the shithousery of them putting the fucking shaving foam on the slice apple pie. What? Complete belly.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Oh my God, it's Dodson! Don't you keep me now, Dodson!
It's also funny to see how inflation has changed, because when he's bribing him in that sequence, he's like, "You'll get $100,000," and it's like, so what? An average year's wages for the right person? So that's not enough to do corporate espionage nowadays. You need a couple million to make it worthwhile.
That's stamp duty on your second home now. What are you talking about?
It's like he's going to have to stay in Costa Rica because that's the only place where $100,000 is going to make a difference because of inflation.
Yeah,
you've upgraded your tin shack to one with wooden supports in the roof.
It's a very Austin Powers. I will destroy the world unless you give me $1 million.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, guys, it's coming up for it's over 2 hours now. And I need my beauty sleep.
That's true. That's true. More handsome by the second.
Have you not missed Love Island?
I did. I've not actually watched Love Island since the World Cup's been on.
Good man.
I actually forgot Love Island was on until this morning. I was taking my golden child, who can't ask people for lifts in his work. Take him into work this morning at 6 o'clock, and they'll talk about Love Island. I was like, is that still on? I need to watch it and catch up. Yeah, Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. It's always good having you on.
No.
For people that don't follow you, do you want to give yourself a wee plug?
Yes, indeed, man. I'm still at paintpartyscott here on Instagram and on TikTok, though I don't do very much on TikTok. I still try and run the late night paint party from time to time. I'm just not as routine with it as I used to be, because I make a load of noise in the night and my children wake up because they're right through that wall there. They're not this time. They almost did. But I need to get back into the routine of it. And you can also catch me on my lore challenges here on my Instagram stories every weekend. I need to keep at it. I skipped it last week because I was really busy, but we'll be back from this weekend. And I want to see people answering and coming up with funny answers, maybe some serious answers, mainly funny answers.
Casey, any plugs that you want to plug?
Orange brushes, 10% off using code Inquisition at checkout. All caps. Get high quality sable brushes at low prices. Free shipping in the UK. Also, shout out to Moonhopper Games. I apologise, I am not wearing your shirt tonight. Duncan is. He's representing it in his lovely sky blue. And I'm going to get this wrong because I always get this wrong. 15% off when you spend more than 20 quid on their own products using code Inquiz or Inquizy.
Inquiz 15.
INQIZ15. There you go.
And Senegal have just scored, so that's Belgium out the World Cup.
Oh, there you go.
Belgium is shit.
Yeah. Folks, we are back next week with Brown Bear Gaming. A new guest coming on, a father and son duo. So make sure you give them a follow, give them some hobby love, because we're all good people and we're in this to share together. And remember, Terry's rant, folks, make sure that if you're going to post somebody's picture, you ask permission, or at very least, give them a tag, because Kimmy worked for a good few minutes on that model.
He's a trooper, Kimmy. But yes, credit where it's due, gang. Don't mug people off.
No,
absolutely.
Don't be like me. Don't mug people off.
Oh, I just saw that second goal. That's a beautiful one. Ooh.
It's a beautiful goal. Folks, we'll see you next week. Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.